And that's what the best coaches do in all sports. Even if you're winning, you're still learning. You're still becoming a better coach. Okay, how are we going to find our edge? Because and I think Steven said this, every team was going to be watching that championship game, that championship run, figuring out how the Celtics were able to win. Okay, how can we get them? How can we knock them down? And so you can't just stay the same. You need to evolve in certain ways.
Yeah, we have Brad Stevens right here. Check out this soundbite. That's him talking about what it takes to win, and then also the consistency this team needs just to even get back to making a run for the finals. Check it out.
And what's real is the margin for error of winning small, and you have to give everything you have every day to be the best you can every time you take that court. We won't always be perfect. I'm sure we'll get drilled in a game early this season, and I'm sure we'll have our moments where we play really well. But the question is how can we stay consistent? And are we about the things that we embraced last year to get there? Do we sacrifice for one another? Are we willing to take everybody's best shot? Do we look at it as a fun challenge? Like for me, this is as good of a challenge as you get if you're a competitor.
I love it's Brad Stevens talking about the difference of building a championship team and trying to make that happen, and then the difference of building a team, and there wasn't much reorganization done, but building a team to win another title, to repeat, to get everyone's best target. We know that Joe Mazzulla quote that came out is in an interview he did, the target's right between our eyes. I hope it's there. I hope we see it. But you hear it in a different way, a much more sane way by Brad Stevens. But you need that psycho and Joe Mazzulla to lead a locker room like that. But a much more sane way of this is good of a challenge. If we're all competitors, what more do you want than everybody's giving you your best shot? Because no one's wasting their time. They're going to bring you the A game. They're not going to waste your night. You better not waste theirs.
Yeah, respecting every opponent. Yep. And like you said, bringing your A game. That's why you play. And that's why it's fun. And when it's fun, you're going to play your best because you're going to be loose and you're going to be free. And you're not going to have that same type of pressure because you're this is why I train in the offseason. This is why those guys probably meet with specialists. They probably fly different places in the offseason. They probably go through insane training that nobody knows about, cross-training that they're doing. So those are the reasons why they're able to do what they're able to do. And it's like what Stevens had said later. He was saying, they're already preparing for the things that are coming against them. They said bodies are going to get sore, playing time shifts. There's going to be different emotions in the locker room. It's going to be a difficult first game. And that's really the key here is they already know that the first game is going to be hard. They're not getting complacent. They're not saying, okay, well, we just won. We know it's going to be a walk in the park, roll into the first game. They're already talking about that.
He recognizes the human nature that could settle in. But again, hearing from Jrue Holiday, hearing from Jayson Tatum, hearing from Jaylen Brown, talking to them, you can tell that human nature, they're not going to let it seep in. And there is the need to defend an NBA championship, an NBA title. And even addressing, we saw the Knicks go out, obviously bring back OG Anunoby, go out and sign Mikal Bridges. All right, they're going to beef up their wings. They're going to get deeper on the wings and elite defenders as well, try and slow them down. Philadelphia 76ers go out and get Paul George, who's a great two-way player still in the league. They know who the biggest threats are to them in the East. They know who the threats to them are in the West. They understand the moves every team is making. Jaylen Brown, in a way, said, I don't care what other teams do. I pay attention to us. He's smart. He notices what's going on around there. And he's probably using it as ways to self-motivate. But they're just, for them to have that self-awareness of they know what they're walking into. And again, it's for everything, the questions about the parade where they love to mention how amazing Boston was. It's all the mentions of what it takes to get to the next spot. And I think that is what's so important is it's already behind them. You mentioned the detachment versus attachment that Joe Mazzulla spoke about. That's going to be a slogan. We're going to hear it all season. Don't get attached to the championship. Don't get attached to what you once did. Detach yourself from that. Get attached to what it takes to win another. And that's what's pivotal with this team.
The part of the attachment that they are using is the leverage in the sense that, okay, we have confidence that when we have to go through hard things and when challenges arise, we know that we can get through them. It's less of a confidence, at least from what they said today on the press conferences, it's less of a confidence in we know we're the best. It's more of we know that we've done it and we can do it again.
Let's get into the Joe Mazzulla quote. Same thing. It was, how do you approach repeating to win an NBA title? Check it out right here.
So, if we would have lost last year, our goal would be to win a championship this year. So I think just clearly stating we want to win a championship every single year. That's the goal, that's the standard, that's the expectation. So what happened in the past really doesn't change when we step foot in the building on this day. It's to win a championship. So that's always going to be the goal.
I love how he says what happened in the past doesn't change the step foot in the building. He spoke about hey, this is you going into your third season. It's something to recognize with Joe Mazzulla. First year coaching, literally didn't have an offseason, didn't have his own coaching staff because Ime Udoka was let go from the team like weeks prior. Media day happens. Joe Mazzulla, a day or two before, is announced that he will take over as interim. Then going into his second season, okay, full offseason, you're still learning. Going into the third, second full offseason, you know your staff, you're more situated. You know the players you have in the room because it's still Tatum, Brown, Holiday, White, and Porzingis, and we'll get to him a little later on, all being there as core guys. But he knows when they step from the building. What he made sure to mention, too, is the alignment you get when you're with the Celtics from top down of everyone has the same demeanor, everyone has the same desire, everyone has the same goal. Win or loss, it's to win again. And if they come up short, there's no discouragement there. That full buy-in from a franchise is really important. It's so difficult to win a championship in any sport on any level. When you get a full buy-in from the building, they have the talent, they have the leadership, but the full buy-in, I think that's vital for a team too.
And he also talked about that alignment being important in the sense of people can focus on their job, their specific job, and do it to their best ability. And that's really what we're seeing in college football a little bit, right? Some of these college football coaches are leaving because they're being pulled so many ways because of NIL. And they're like, you know what? I can't even do my job as a college football coach. I need to get out and maybe go to the NFL or do a different role because I can't just do my job, which is be the head coach of this team. I have to worry about recruiting and NIL, and I got to keep my own players here, right? Like I not only do I have to recruit, but I have to keep my own players on my team because of all the new things. And so I think it's the same thing as what Mazzulla is saying is that there's so much alignment and there's so much consistency from top down throughout the building that people can really focus on their specific job, and that's why they're having so much success.
It's also we have to ask of everyone to win a championship. It's not just assistant coaches. It's not just support staff. It's everyone that works for a team. Like, you're asking a lot of everyone. You said it, like the sacrifices it takes to win a championship. It is a toll, not just time, not just length of a season, but the amount of extra work you have to put in. You have to return with that same approach. But when you have that from everyone, when the season gets long, stuff gets hard, middle of December, middle of January, they're going to have a weird Midwest swing, let's say, where they're going like Indiana to Cleveland to Minnesota, tough teams, and they're away from their home for like 10 days, let's say. Like, that stuff gets difficult. But when everyone's putting in their all, like, that's what lifts people up. And in a way of, you do your job, I can focus on mine. The players can focus on the floor. Mazzulla can focus on coaching. Everyone that supports them otherwise too. That's what is important, that the standard's always been there for the Celtics. Like, they didn't fall into this. It's not like the Denver Nuggets where, cool, we have the best player in the world. We won a title. As an owner, I'm all about the margins and all about profits. So we're going to start letting key pieces go away. Because they could have done that, but there's an extension to Derek White. There's a supermax to Jayson Tatum. There's not trading Kristaps Porzingis, even with his injury wonders. They keep buying in again, and when you have that same buy-in, it doesn't allow any discouragement to seep in.
Yeah, the buy-in and like the chemistry and bringing that group together, right? You can just tell from the outside that this is a tight group. I think Jayson was even saying that, I've seen everyone. Or maybe it was one of the other guys. I've seen everyone here. Like, maybe this is our first day all back together, but like, we've seen each other throughout the offseason.
Yeah, it was Drew Holiday. Yes.
And so, like, that's important. And that's part of the sacrifice is like, you need to sacrifice your own social time to go be with your teammates and see your teammates. And that's what makes a team very dangerous, is when you are relationally connected off the court.
It's important too, like Drew Holiday pointed that out. He's like, I've seen the guys who've all been together. They talk about the Olympic experience. And even you see a Kristaps Porzingis walk in, like no limp. Everyone's watching him. What happened after the ankle surgery? He looks happy. As a guy like me growing up in New Jersey, when the Knicks drafted him, there's all that wonder what is around him. He was the unicorns. People were surprised they picked him. He was great, but he wasn't ready to fully be grown up yet and ready for that spotlight. I don't blame him. He was super young when he was drafted 8-9 years ago, maybe 20, maybe 19, maybe 21. I don't know. But to be in the New York spotlight, everything he's been through, the ups and downs, different teams, DC, Dallas, New York, the injuries, that elation by him and that excitement, you could tell how much he appreciated the experience and for me back in the building. And when Brad Stevens asked about the health of the team, obviously that question is really Kristaps. And he said he had the surgery. He's recovering well. He's optimistic. Celtics didn't want to put a timeline on it, and I don't blame them for that. Like, don't put pressure on Kristaps Porzingis to rush to the floor because that can only hurt you down the road. And he pointed out how unique the injury is. what got me was Brad saying, quote, "We're very, very pleased with where he is and maybe a little surprised," end quote. Being a little surprised, he wouldn't say that unless they were seeing some good things. If it was a bad surprise, we would just say he's on track. We're pleased with his progress he made. Very surprised. That probably means he's ahead of schedule. That makes me wonder when he'll be back, and we'll see.
Yeah, and there was no panic in any of the tones, in any of the languages with any injuries, really. And so I think that also adds to the confidence that this team has. Like, we're good where we're at. We know how to win. We just did it. We know what it takes to win. And we know when we need to peak, right? Like, that was, at least for me in my college athletic experience, that was a huge thing that our team I saw growth in throughout my 4 years at Boston College was, okay, how are we going to prevent injuries? How are we going to stay healthy? And how are we going to peak at the right time? So I think the Celtics team is taking a lot of confidence in, okay, we don't need to jump the gun. We don't need to get people out there that are coming back. We're going to be okay.
What boggled my mind with this Celtics team, like they just peaked all season long. They had one of the historic.
That's hard to do.
They had a top 10 season in NBA history, like historically. And then in the playoffs, only losing 3 games on their way to winning an NBA title. Like that is just so wild to me. They had the talent. They could have the mental lapses. They peaked all season long. Like you said, it's so difficult. Everyone peak at the right time. You said it. Everyone says it. They would have their random letdown nights. They would have the random nights the other team was hot and they were cold from 3, which they'll live and die by, no problem. But they just kept it, and it was so consistent. That's what stood out to me about that run. So everything they say, it's, look what we did. We consistently dominated. We don't have to change much, but we know we need to still be locked in. Like, that's what I hear from the Celtics team.
I still don't forgive myself for not being in town for the parade. So everybody's talking about the parade today at Media Day. I was in Europe. I was on a graduation trip. So, like,
nice.
I couldn't, it was also an amazing experience. But everyone was like, oh, I bet you were in Boston for the parade. I was like, no, I wasn't.
How many Boston parades were you here for?
A few. I've been here for 8 years, so however many. I mean, I've been to Patriots, I've been to Red Sox, so now I just need...
So since 2013.
I need the Bruins and the Celtics.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
2 Patriots, 1 Red Sox parade probably, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? I had to get pulled out of school for that one because I wasn't... Was it that one? Yeah, I think... No. It was the Patriots parade I had to get pulled out of school for.
Good.
We didn't cancel school. I don't know why. It's people in Boston, like, get comfortable with the winning.
You know what? But that happened, me growing up in Jersey in 07 and 11, I mean, it was the worst nightmare twice. I grew up a Patriots fan. And I remember 2011, I'm in school. All my buddies skipped school, took the train into the city. We're at the Giants parade. That was the one time I was like, damn,
you were
like
the goody two-shoes?
Well, I'm not going to go to the Giants parade after they beat my team. I did think about it, but I'm like...
It'd still be kind of fun, though.
No, my friends would not let me live that down. They would have made me wear a Brady jersey or something. You know what? I like it. Keep the schools going. Skip it. Your parents did you right. The same thing. No dark soda. Skip school for parades.
Hey, they brought somebody, like, yeah, we'll pack the car, bring as many friends. I'm like, my high school principal is going to kill me. Yeah.
It's okay. You showed up the rest of the days. Let's go to this Tatum quote. This is what I loved, AB. He was asked about his Olympic experience and if it motivated him. He went really in depth, and this is what stood out to me overall today. Play right here.
In real time, it was tough. But it's, and Joe, I talk to Joe a lot. Joe was probably the happiest person in the world that I didn't win Finals MVP and that I didn't play in 2 of the games in the Olympics. So that was odd. But if you know Joe, it makes sense.
So Tatum also mentioned, too, that the motivation he got, he's not going to let one person motivate him. He feels everything happens for a reason. And he mentioned he coming off the highest of highs, win an NBA championship, cover of 2K, huge contract, and then that happens. He doesn't know why. He doesn't know the reason why. But everything happens for a reason. Something good will come out of it. I think that is it telling him, hey, slow down. He's there, but he's not there yet. With his God-given ability, his talent, how good his technique is, how he can be one of the most dominant 2-way players, it's not all there yet, and he hasn't peaked. Again, Jaylen Brown's motivated by the Olympic snub. He can say he's not, he is. Jayson Tatum will be motivated, and he cannot admit it, but he is, in a way of being humbled. Go put in the work. You're not playing in every game in the Olympics yet. You're on the bench in the Olympics. You're not on those guys' levels yet for winning. Even though you won, there's still more to do. And I think that is what's so important, to get that from Jayson Tatum.